Let's continue with the teachings of Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj from the book I Am That. So the questioner asks Maharaj, is there no salvation for the world? And Maharaj says, I will read his words. He says, which world do you want to save? The world of your own projection? Save is yourself. What that means is that what you're trying to save is your own self, it's your own projection. My world, he questions. Show me my world and I shall deal with it. I am not aware of any world separate from myself, which I am free to save or not to save. What business have you with saving the world when all the world needs is to be saved from you? Get out of the picture and see whether there is anything left to save. So you see this notion of separate self, the sense of personal identification, its nature is such that it finds continuation through a purpose, and sometimes saving the world becomes our purpose. But the more we get involved in this kind of an affair, the more suffering we create for ourselves, because then there is an attachment to the outcome. We want the world to be the best place, the happiest place, full of compassionate people, loving people. In other words, we are projecting our own fantasies on what is. Now, Ramesh Balsekar would say it like this, that since all the compassionate organisms come from the source, even the psychopathic organisms come from the source. And the duality is the link of interconnected opposites. Therefore, good compassionate people will exist alongside with uncompassionate, unempathic, or psychopathic people. So there will always be this duality no matter what you do. Now, again, if you have a cause, you can surely work towards it. But at the same time, know that the result or the outcome is not in your control. In other words, you are not doing anything as such. And also question yourself as to what qualifies me to change the world, to make it a better place, to make the world peaceful, to provide salvation to the world. Who am I? Who is this me that thinks it can solve all the problems of the world? Am I really integrated myself? If my own mind is fragmented, then what relief am I going to give to the world? I'm just going to project my own fears, my own insecurities onto others. Now, I may pretend to be a good doer, I may pretend to be the very compassionate, empathic person, but I may end up causing more destruction, more unrest. Sometimes people who participate in peace rallies end up turning violent. How? If they truly believe in peace, why do they become violent? Because the violence is very much embedded within them. They think that they are the doers, and they also think that the others are the doers. And the doer entity, this me, wants to change things, to make it wants to make things better, because it thinks that is the way it should be. Whereas Maharaj says that the reality is not what should or should not be. Reality is what is. The unaltered and unpredictable flow of life is the reality. Now, Again, if you associate with a cause, there's no harm in working towards cause, towards world peace or whatever. Even I say that, all of these talks that I do, they are for peace. But I'm not concerned as such with your peace. I'm just pointing to that peace which is right here now as your own self. And I'm just pointing to it. That's what I'm doing. I'm not concerned whether you see it or you don't see it. If it is in your destiny to turn and dissolve, so it will happen. And if it is not in your destiny, no matter what you do, it's not going to work. That's what Ramana Maharishi said. That do what you uh, do what you may to prevent something. What is bound to happen will happen. So he said the best course is to remain silent. Now, silence does not mean inaction. Don't confuse silence with inaction. As I told you earlier, this is not about being passive. This is not about being lazy. It's not sloth, it's not inertia. Because sloth, inertia, laziness is also an assumption, it is also a doing. It is simply understanding the fact that as a human being, as the experience of this human entity that is going on here, you are limited and you have limited capabilities. While you may give your best, and whatever you give may inspire people for ages to come, but it's not going to transform the world as such. And in most cases, in a majority of cases, most people are fragmented. Their thinking is fragmented. They have not worked on themselves and they have just simply adopted ideas. Ideas which suit their fantasy, which suit their state of mind in that particular moment. So Adolf Hitler was one such person. So he ran a propaganda where he claimed that he would do good for the society, for the German society, German people. But in the end, what happened? In fact, if you see a majority of the so-called such leaders, authoritative leaders, authoritarians, what you see is that they end up doing exactly what their intention is, what their intention originally was. They ended up doing exactly the opposite of that. So that is why Maharaj says here that it is the world that needs saving from you. But now think about this possibility for a moment. Let's say each one of us is at complete peace and in complete harmony with what is. When each one of us is completely integrated with life, when each one of us is completely in harmony with life and living, would there be a world that requires saving? Think about it. When you are truly at peace, do you ever feel the compulsion to change others? Do you ever feel the compulsion to manipulate, to control others? When you're completely at peace, when you're happy, you don't feel any need to change anybody, to transform anybody, or to force your opinion on anybody. You simply accept things the way they are. You leave things the way they are. Yes, if there is a practical situation which requires an urgent solution, then that's a different case. But majority of our suffering is based on the ideas which seem as a perceived threat, which is not happening right now. The threat is not right now. It is a perceived threat. So it is based on a projection that is happening in an imaginary future. It is all a game of projections. And all these projections, they come from a place of our own fears, deep-seated fears and insecurities. And Maharaj says here, I'll read his words. Man alone can destroy in himself the roots of pain. Others can only help with the pain, but not with its cause, which is the abysmal stupidity of mankind. Yes, if somebody is in pain, you can offer a painkiller. But if the pain is reoccurring, there is a pattern, then it is often very difficult to convey that pattern to that person. It is only that person who has to see that there is a pattern to this pain and why this pain is happening again and again to you, to me. You know what Maharaj is saying here, that while we are so obsessed with solving world's problem, because in a way it brings attention to this me, it makes this me feel important, because we feel that we are the central character in this movie of life, that we are the main characters, and that it is up to us to save the world. I mean, this is a common fantasy. We see the movies in which we imagine ourselves to be the central character, and that's what we want to be. We want to be the savior. But the issue is that in our movie of life, we are both the antagonist and the protagonist. We are both good and evil. It is there all in us. And all of this happens when we project, when we project into an imaginary future. We don't see reality the way it is. We project our own fantasies, our own fears. And Maharaj says, or in fact, any other Advaita teacher or spiritual teacher say that just look at it, just look carefully, and you will see that this is an illusion. Some people fall in love easily and they are so enamored by their love object. They're so enamored that sometimes they are willing to leave their family, their spouse, or it happens. But it is all a projection that is happening. Now, how much you try to tell that person that this is not real, it's not going to work. The person has to look at this himself or herself. This is what Jiddu Krishnamurti said this is what Jiddu Krishnamurti meant when he said that a sense of responsibility has to come about. Responsibility not towards the other, not about taking care of the other or reforming the world, but sense of responsibility, just the sense. Who is this me? What am I doing? What is truth? We have to investigate these questions, because otherwise we are lost in this world, in this huge world. Physically it is a small world, but psychologically it is a huge world. It is tormenting. So the sense of responsibility brings that attention towards this me, the sense of separate existence. And Maharaj says that in creation, the ignorance is rooted in creation. That is what Maharaj says in this book, I Am That, page number 127. He says, I'll better read it out only. He says, in creation, never, for creation itself is rooted in ignorance. Matter itself is ignorance. Not to know, and not to know that one does not know is the cause of endless suffering. Not to know that one does not know is the cause of endless suffering. Now, see, anything on this, in this consciousness, any object in consciousness, whether it is a physical object or it is a subtle object like thought, memory, or let's say, let's take for example a physical object, a stone. Now, it is only the memory which brings reference to this point. Through the collection of images, you recall that it is a stone. But you do not know what that stone is in its entirety. If you look at a smaller scales, all you're going to find is atoms arranged in some particular order. You cannot make sense as to why that order is. What is the basis of that order? But it is just there. Why are the molecules bonding in such a way and creating such a shape? Why does hydrogen and oxygen molecules combine to form water? We know that they form water, but why? How does that order come about? And why it never fails? Why can't you form water with carbon and oxygen? Why only hydrogen and oxygen? We never question these things. Because we cannot know. We cannot know anything in its entirety because nothing really exists. The very attempt to try to know what is the reality takes you away from the reality. And the greatest barrier is the sense of separate existence. And Maharaj says that here. He says that the sense of remove the sense of separateness and there will be no conflict. The questions will dissolve. Only in separation the questions arise. And Ramesh would say that this intellect is a wonderful thing. It has helped us with with so many achievements, with such a great technological progress, and also the ability to understand human mind and human mechanism, brain mechanism, everything. But still, we have not been able to find what is the reality of consciousness through science. And this is a hard problem because the fundamental assumption of science is that it is the matter, the brain, which gives rise to consciousness. But brain again is an appearance in consciousness. Without consciousness, would there be a brain? So it is a very difficult question to answer. There is no yes or no about it. So Maharaj says it is not possible to know anything in this way in its entirety. And when the intellect ego gives up, that is when the truth is revealed simultaneously. In other words, you become the truth. That is your being. That is your consciousness. So continuing with that topic, where Maharaj says that we are trying to find solutions, but ultimately our solutions are not working. He says that description and causation are the remedy for a disease caused by obtuseness and stupidity. Just like a deficiency disease is cured through the supply of the missing factor, so are the diseases of living cured by a good dose of intelligent detachment. You see, we human beings, have a very peculiar situation. We have wars as of now, and there are people who are dying every day. Not just wars, we have poverty, we have uh, we have different other problems, income equality, and so on. But we are the ones who are not willing to let go of the geographical boundaries. We have, there is a greed in us. We want to get hold of the resources because we think of our betterment, and we form groups, we form communities, and we do not allow others to enter that community. We don't welcome them in those communities because we are so concerned that what we have should remain with us. And then we worry about wars. And then we are concerned about our security. So we are trying to secure ourselves through weapons by increasing our strength. But when a weapon is created, ultimately it lands up with the enemy. At some point, it will land up with the enemy as well. And then again, we find ourselves in problem. Now, I'm not saying to give away the weapons because I don't know the solution to any of these problems. Honestly, I never even think about these things because there is no way this limited mind entity that considers itself to be separate can find a solution in separation. But you see, in wholeness, there is no problem at all because everything is accepted the way it is. So, in wholeness, there is no I that wants to change the world, that wants to make it better, because I itself, by itself, the pure I itself is whole. It is not bothered about the outcome. Yes, I may contribute to a cause, I may speak about a cause. So, people who know me, I speak about air pollution issues in New Delhi. I am quite vocal about it. But at the same time, I know that it is not a simple problem and it is not a problem which has one particular solution. I'm not much concerned about that. But yes, the human part, the character which identifies with the cause may keep speaking about the cause. But when that is seen, there is engagement, simply the pure engagement, but there is no involvement with any of that. And involvement creates suffering because involvement implies separation. Involvement is the thinking mind. Engagement is the working mind. So the working mind is very efficient. Working mind solves a problem which arises in the moment very efficiently. Thinking mind is only concerned with the outcome. Thinking mind is always scared. What if I do this? How will I be perceived? How should I do this? Should I do this or not? Working mind simply doesn't think about all of that. Working mind is all about creativity. So I guess we will conclude for now.